Hello, everyone. It's Shane Jinks. As I mentioned when we did our introductions, I'm a local emergency medicine doctor, work at Ben Taub. I'm also a EMS medical director. And this project is focused on improving the way we do medical direction and trying to increase our paramedics' critical thinking skills. So this project or the program plan that I've designed focuses on a couple different models of teaching. The first is the idea presented by Dr. Groh that attempts to match the learner style with the teaching style. He presented this idea back in 1991, and it was in one of the assignments that we had to read from Dr. Abella. It basically states that the better you match the teaching style with the learner stage, the better your learner will learn. The other model of teaching that I use is the self-directed learning readiness model. This basically uses a scale to try and assess the self-directed learning readiness of the learner. I was lucky enough to be able to email Dr. Fisher Murray, who created the self-directed learning scale for nurses, and he was kind enough to share his learning scale with me with permission so that I could use that for not only this project but also for a study that I plan to do based off of these ideas. So as I mentioned, the first step is assessing the learner's self-directed learning readiness by using this scale by Dr. Fisher. I'm going to attach this scale as an appendix to my project plan for you to look at. It basically is 50 questions designed to look at the paramedic's readiness for learning independently. This scale will help to classify the paramedics I plan on meeting with as either a dependent learner, an interested learner, an involved learner, or a self-directed learner. Once I've identified them in the self-directed learningness scale, then I'll meet with them and design my intervention around how I feel they're ready to learn independently. However, the first step is going to be having the paramedics review cases, and it's going to be the cases that are going to be the center of the educational intervention. I think that medical professionals and most learners learn best based off of real life experiences that they've had, especially adult learners. So I plan on using case review as the center of our educational discussion. So prior to my meeting with them and identifying their self-directed learning readiness, they're going to review specific cases and ask themselves the following questions. What things are you most proud of from the case? What knowledge or skill deficit did the case identify in you personally? What deficiencies did the case reveal about your EMS system? Now, the cases that we're going to be able to review with the paramedics are recorded either in the written record, which has been the standard for case review, and the other option they have is to be able to review a video record. Most of the critical cases we have at Cypress Creek are recorded via glasses camera, digital camera, and we can review those cases for a lot of the high-risk cases, and I think it's a much better way to be able to get good documentation and good review of the case itself. So after having reviewed those cases, I'm going to meet with each of the paramedics, and I'm going to review their answers that they came up with to the questions that I had asked prior to the case review. And then I'm going to provide an educational intervention that's designed off of the paramedic's self-directed learning readiness. That is, if they're a dependent learner, then I have to act as the authority or the expert teacher and provide them with instruction in a didactic or instructional format. However, if their deficiency revolved around a procedural skill, then I'll first overview that skill, I'll demonstrate the skill without comment, then I'll demonstrate the skill with comment, allow the learner to verbalize how they would practice the skill, and then allow the learner to practice the skill. The interested learner will require more motivator as a teacher. And for these learners, I would provide some sort of inspiring lecture plus a guided discussion to help them learn the importance of the educational goal that I wish to provide. And if the deficiency is, again, a procedural deficiency, then I'm going to skip the verbalization of the skill, followed by the learner practicing the skill. If it's an involved learner, then I would act as the facilitator and simply facilitate a discussion as a group between myself and the paramedics and in regards to their educational deficiency. And again, if it involves a procedural skill, then I would allow the team to verbalize as well as practice the skill. For those that are identified as self-directed learners, my job as a teacher would be to serve as a delegator. I would lead the team to discuss the deficiencies that the case highlighted and create learning objectives from that discussion that they have. Again, if the deficiency is procedural, then I would allow them to practice that skill independently and answer any questions or give any direction that they need. The next step then is to provide a follow-up assignment for the learners. For the dependent learners identified, I would provide a textbook chapter as a reading assignment for the paramedic to read and then later summarize for me on the follow-up. For the interested learner, I would provide a journal article and have the paramedic read and be prepared to discuss the journal article. For the involved learner, I would have the paramedic find the journal article to read and be prepared to discuss the article. And for the self-directed learners, I would have the paramedic find 2 separate journal articles that present differing opinions on the subject and have them be prepared to discuss and present their opinion on the best practice highlighted by the journal article. So then the next step would be to follow up with the assignment given to the paramedics. For the dependent learners, I'll meet in person with them and have them present their summary of the textbook chapter that they had read. For the interested learners, I would meet in person or call to discuss the journal article that they were assigned to read, and then discuss with them the summary that they provide off of the journal article. For the involved learner, I would email, call, or meet in person to discuss the journal article that the paramedic selected, why they selected the article, and what they learned from the article. For the self-directed learner, I would again meet with the paramedic or call or email the paramedic and have them discuss with me the 2 journal articles that they selected and what opinion they were able to form based off of the evidence that they were able to read and synthesize. The next step of the process then would be to set a goal with the paramedics based off of the educational intervention that they had received. Based off of the journal article or the textbook chapter that they had read, I would allow them to set a goal that was easily measurable and achievable in the next 3 to 6 months, and something that I feel would be realistic for them. The next step then would be to track their changes, track the changes that they have in performance. I would highlight specifically the goal that they had set, but also their overall performance regarding important quality measures in rapid sequence intubation and their other airway management skills. And I would follow those in the written and video record as recorded in our standard quality improvement processes. After tracking the changes that they make in their performance and their overall ability to think critically in these difficult cases, I would then follow up with them a 3rd time, the 3rd meeting with the paramedics, to follow up on the goal that they had created. These are some of the questions that I may ask. What challenges did you have in trying to obtain your goal? What successes did you have in trying to obtain your goal? Did you accomplish your goal? What other resources were you able to search out in attempt to obtain your goal? So then let me summarize again what this program plan aims to do. And let me first say that I think that this program plan could be widely applicable to lots of different medical learners. The case-based review as an educational intervention, I think, is something that we use all across medicine, and I certainly use it a lot with my residents and medical students, and I think that it'd be valid for a lot of different medical learners. So the first step is to assess the learner stage of the paramedics as either a dependent learner, interested learner, involved learner, or a self-directed learner. I then have the paramedics review the case before I meet with them and have them identify some educational or knowledge or skill deficiencies. I review the case with the paramedics in person, and I come up with them together an educational intervention that's designed in style based off of the self-directed learner readiness of the paramedic. Then I provide for them a follow-up assignment that's tailored to their self-directed learning readiness. I provide for them a follow-up assignment, a follow-up to be able to meet with them regarding their educational intervention. At that follow-up, we set a goal for how they're going to improve their performance in the future. I then track any changes that they have based off of the educational intervention, specifically focusing on the goal that they had set, but their overall performance of airway management. And then I follow up with them on the goal that we had set. I meet with them a third time, and we discuss their achievement in trying to progress towards this goal. In this way, I hope that I can not only help my paramedics learn to manage airway better and provide a valid and effective educational intervention for them, but I also hope to help them become self-directed learners. I think as a whole, paramedics are focused on a reflexive style of performance. See A, then do B. And I hope that this educational intervention can help them to think more critically during their cases, be able to think on their toes, and know how to research independently answers to the questions that they have in their everyday practice. Thanks for your attention. I would love any thought or insight that you have on this program, as I hope to use it in real life in the future, as well as possibly study it. Thanks for your help.